What's going on, everyone? It's Tetrosphere, and I have, as promised, some footage from, not from, but of Genesys format gameplay from my locals. We saw some without commentary in my last video, and I'm doing commentary on this one. Basically, just some of them I'm going to do commentary, some I'm going to do raw footage, just so that way, whichever you prefer as a viewer, it's available. It's not that I'm trying to cater to any one style or another, just both are going to be out there, just trying to have a variety of content. Even though this isn't a case tournament, I do think that just given the spirit of doing some commentary, I am going to have a question of the day, and all I want to know from you guys is, here in Michigan, we had our first snow of the year, and I'm just curious if you guys are looking forward to the winter, or if you're a winter hater. You know, I know society's pretty split on that, Cap. Let me know where you guys stand. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump on into... What was that? Jump on into the match. We do have myself on the left playing Radiant Typhoon. On the right, we have my friend Juan playing Memento. He rolled a 9. I am unsure if at this point I myself had rolled the dice. I guess we will see if that's about to be the case. It seems that I have, and if I recall correctly, I did in fact lose this dice roll. He rickrolled me, by the way, before this. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear that I recognize. Alright, so let's see if we go ahead and jump on in to the match, or if I need to skip forward a bit. Alright, drawing our hands. I do have Joel and Lockbird there. And let's see what we got going. I remember resolving this draw fairly early on. We do have Vision being activated by Juan in the draw phase. Drawing 2 and discarding the Metaltronus. Of course, this is in draw phase, so I cannot draw. And I believe at this point we do move on to main phase. In the main phase here, we are going to normal summon Memento Anguish, which I believe she adds a Memento monster. And it looks like we add the Horned Dragon, which on resolution here, I, of course, do have an effect, but before he even gives me a chance, because he's impatient, he tries to activate Tatsu no Shigo, but I quickly inform him that I do have opportunities to activate quick effects on resolutions of chains, at which point I do decide to activate Joel and Lockbird. Now, it is at this point that Juan informs me that that was the only search he needed to conduct. We will see if that's the case. Joel and Lockbird is not considered to be that crazy good against Memento, but surely it still prevents a few things from firing off. It definitely does create a situation where they're not playing optimally, so it's not necessarily a dead card in the matchup. It's just not exactly what you want to see. And off the effect of Tatsu no Shigo, we are sending the Sleepy, and I just missed the other two. It looks like Goblin, and I think Mace was the other one. Alright, and then we go Anguish effect to destroy herself and summon Goblin. Goblin is going to hit the field. And then Goblin, I believe, can pop itself to send any Memento card. Thinking on the send here. Looks like we're considering Gaddock. Oh, it must send 2 cards. We'll go for Gaddock and Field Spell. Gaddock, of course, is then able to summon itself, and then on summon add the Field Spell. Field Spell is activated. There's going to be a point here coming up where I do skip ahead a little. Basically, we had to get a judge ruling just to verify that something worked the way we thought it did. So Juan is under the effect of Joel and Lockbird, and he is going to fusion summon into the Memento Twin Dragon fusion monster, which can destroy cards you control for effect, and if you do, add up to 2 mementos from deck to hand. Now, the card does not say you can add up to 2, but because it says up to 2, obviously 0 is a potential outcome, which means that even though it doesn't say you can, automatically it is considered an optional effect. Is at least how it was ruled in this instance. So we will, once we get to that point here, which I believe is happening. Or maybe it's not happening right this moment, because that's 3 materials. Okay, so we are going for the combined creation first, it looks like. But that ruling does come up here soon. So combined creation hits the field. Or is that Creation King? I think that's Creation King. Creation King hits the field. And we are going to go ahead and send from deck to grave with its effect when fusion summoned. Sending the Trap, the big guy, and Sleepy. And that Trap is the one that just pops cards. It's not the one that makes combined creation and Appaloosa-like boss monster. Alright, so the Sleepy here is how we're going to extend. We're able to summon it from hand because a Memento was destroyed. And then on summon, of course, it has an effect to conduct a fusion summon. Looks like we're considering our materials. We're going to go for the Horn Dragon and the Gaddock into the Twin Dragon. And this is where we attempt the effect. And I believe this is the point where this is happening. Yeah, I'm reading the card here. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. And I believe here is where we're resolving it. I think Horn Dragon is going to pop itself. Yes, it pops itself, doesn't add because the add's optional. And then now on resolution, because it was destroyed, it can still summon the Akihiron. And then the field spell also will target it and summon a Memento from grave that has a lower level than it. So I believe Akihiron also summons itself, actually. So it's the field spell, I think, is summoning Anguish. Akihiron is summoning itself. And then Twin Dragon is going to summon... Looks like we're considering Mace. Yep, Mace hits the field. Just clarifying some things about Akihiron. Nothing crazy going on here, if I recall correctly. I think we were just having like a quick conversation about whether or not you can attempt its effect on turn 1 because you don't have a battle phase, and its effect is that your monsters can attack directly. Not that it even matters. I think there's like some chain blocking situations where if you could do it, it would be an important deal. But my understanding is that you can't because you don't have a battle phase, and the attack directly application is like mandatory. It's not like you can make monsters attack. That's my understanding. I'm not too sure about that. I know that there's some weird rulings with like cards that say you can attack twice. You can't deactivate those turn 1 because you can't attack at all. Regardless, it doesn't matter in this scenario. we do go ahead and Synchro Summon into Berserker of the Tenyi, which is a pretty powerful card in this matchup because obviously a lot of my monsters trigger in hand to summon themselves, and if Berserker of the Tenyi is able to simply banish them, I don't get to summon them. Big guy hits the field, and in the end phase here, the field spell is going to allow us to set the trap that just pops hella cards. Shuffling back Sleepy, Gaddock, Mace, Creation King, and Twin Dragon. We set our other card, which I believe is Memento Fusion. And then in the end phase, like I said, Field Spell is going to set the trap. Or maybe that was... No, that's Final Bringer of the End Times. So now we have to choose between Fusion and the trap. That's right. I remember this coming up because Droll... So this is what I mean by Droll not, like, hurting the deck bad, but making you make some, like, tougher choices and, like, not being able to get everything you want. Normally, you would have both of those things, but in this case, you don't. So I go ahead and draw for turn, and I'm considering how to play in this board. Obviously, because our friend here has 3 cards in the back row, I'm not able to simply special summon all my guys for free. However, if I am able to get a Mystical Space Typhoon in the grave, I still have that online. So that is definitely going to be a consideration. I forget the details of this match. Let's see how it goes. I remember this ending pretty quickly for me, even though we are 13 minutes into this game. Our friend here got to play a long time. I did not. I believe here, yes, I normal summon Eldem. So what I should have done was just, I should have activated Chant in the draw phase for MST. MST pop one of those interactions, probably the fields or the quick play, or maybe even the field spell. And then that way I have more pushes. That just, I think at this time I just wasn't thinking about it. But we go ahead and add Crocia. And I have Tip, Smiting Storm, and Chant as far as quick plays goes. We summon the Creation King off of the effect of Combined Creation because I activated a card or effect. So now what I need to do here is I need to activate Tip to grab... Hopefully what I did was Freezing Curses, because then Freezing Curses can negate Berserker when I try to summon Crocia. So if I was thinking, that's what I did. Yeah, it can be targeted. So Freezing Curses is definitely the play here. Grab Freezing Curses. Now on resolution, I am able to trigger the effect of Crocia in hand. The card banished off the top of his deck was Darkblade, not Gaddock. And so I'm activating Crocia, and obviously he's going to chain Berserker of the Tenyi to banish the Crocia. I'm going to chain Freezing Curses to negate the effect of Berserker of the Tenyi. Now, unfortunately, the one interaction I did not know about was Final Bringer of the End Times, which can pop Berserker and Eldem to essentially dodge Freezing Curses, and Eldem's going to get popped, Freezing Curses is going to miss target, and Crocia is going to get banished. I've already used my normal summon. I think at this point, I am pretty sure I am simply contemplating a scoop. Because the other thing is, even after all of this... So, I activate Chant here, I believe, to search MST. So, basically what can happen here is the field spell, because a monster he controls was destroyed. It doesn't have to be a Memento monster. Any monster in the field spell will trigger to special summon from grave. So, once I have MST, we'll resolve backwards. Freezing Curses will miss. Crocia will get banished. And then, if he wants to, he can trigger the field spell. So he does go for the field spell, and I obviously am simply going to chain Mystical Space Typhoon. Or do I? Surely I do. surely I chain Mystical Space Typhoon. Or I scoop. I either chain or I scoop. Yeah, I scoop. Because I can't play through the pops from the Combined Creation. Not to mention... Or the Creation King. Not to mention the Fusion. Alright, so let's go ahead and skip ahead of Skosh. Get through some siding. Let's go ahead and move on into Game 2, where I once again draw Joel and Lockbird. A lot stronger behind a board. Opening play, I go with the special summon of Eldem, and of course activate its effect to search a Radiant Typhoon monster. I grab Crocy. Now I can special summon Swen, search a spell. I go Vision here. I believe we're discussing the prospect of me getting hit with a Joel and Lockbird, which even though I have that Call by the Grave would actually still be unfortunate because that would mean that my own Joel and Lockbird is offline. So I do activate Vision, draw 2, discard 1, and I believe I discarded a redundant Swen there if I'm not mistaken. This is going to trigger Crocy to special summon, and then of course Crocy on summon will search both an MST and a Radiant Typhoon card from the deck or graveyard each, and I am then able to, I am now wind locked at this point. Now, I think I sided down to 1 Mystical Space Typhoon because I didn't feel like it was that good in the matchup. I realized after the fact that that was a mistake. I think you keep 2 MSTs in against Memento. So that's where I messed up. Well, one of the many ways in which I surely messed up. But we don't have an MST to add, so we simply get to add 1 Radiant Typhoon card. I think I go for Phonics. I do, in fact, go for Phonics. Magala also would have been potentially a play. Just because that is a bit more like... over the course of multiple turns, I can get access to not only Phonics, but also Voroon. More searches with Crocy, things of that nature. But given how explosive the deck I'm up against is, I just wanted to get right into Phonics. I go ahead and overlay for Totem Bird just to negate some engine. Oh, I had Magala in hand already. Okay, that makes sense. I set 2, being Called by the Grave and Mystical Space Typhoon. And pass turn with Joel and, I'm not sure, Phonics, of course, in hand. Alright, Juan draws for turn, and let's see what we got here. I see a Mystical Space Typhoon targeting my set Called by. I don't have a response. And I'm told actually the chain's not over because he's going to activate Twin Twister, discarding Aki Huron to pop both of them. And this probably looks a bit ridiculous. But what I found out in a few seconds was that this was just a concession. Because the hand that he drew was apparently just unplayable. So fair enough. So once again, I am going to be tasked with playing into a full, or not a full, but a Memento board. Let's go ahead and skip through the siding and get into game 2 here, or game 3, excuse me. Cuts have been offered, hands are being drawn. Let's go ahead and get into action here. I don't think I have any hand traps this time. Normal summon of Anguish, once again, to just go ahead and add a Memento. Tatsu no Shigo hits the hand. This time, no draw. So we're going to go ahead and activate the Tatsu. And then its effect on summon pops itself. It's going to send some Memento monsters from deck to grave whose level are equal to or less than the level of the monster popped. In this case, of course, being 5. Looks like we decide on Mace, Goblin, and Sleepy. Anguish is going to try to summon Mace by popping herself. This is said to be fine. And then Mace is able to blow itself up to add a Memento card, I think. Or maybe it's a Memento spell. Either way, we add Fusion. We're going to go ahead and activate Memento Fusion, it looks like. And because Mementos were popped, we are able to shuffle back material from the grave. Looks like we go with Horse, Mace, and Anguish, if I saw that correctly, to summon Creation King. Now, Creation King does have a trigger here on summon, but in addition, I have a trigger because I did happen to open Radiant Typhoon Crocy, which he's not very happy about, but I am going to be able to search 2 cards during his turn. Regardless, as we resolve backwards, Crocy summons herself, and then Creation King is going to foolish, I believe it's 3 Memento cards from deck to grave. We go Combine Creation, Akihiron, and Gatik. Gatik is on Chainlink 1 to summon itself, and then on Chainlink 2 we have Crocy to add Mystical Space Typhoon and Radiant Typhoon card. There, of course, is the MST, and I believe I also add Chant. Or do I add Vision? I think I was deciding between Chant and Vision, but Vision is nice because I can just try to get into more breakers, which I feel like I'm going to need to have a lot of power spells to break through this board. Whereas Chant can really only just recover the MST from grave, which Vision can also do if I feel like it's strictly necessary. In terms of board breaking potential, obviously Chant can get a monster, which Vision can't, but I didn't really feel like that was strictly necessary here. Alright, so we do banish Fusion from grave, which allows him to pop a card and then I think add a Memento spell. Yes. Akihiron is able to summon itself because a Memento was destroyed. We do go ahead and play Memento Tiklan, the field spell. And now we just need to load our graveyard up to try to get our combined creation out. I do see that Sleepy in hand, so I think we're going to be able to do so. Creation King pops Akihiron and Crocy. Akihiron must add the fusion back from Banish. Sleepy summons, fuses away the combined or the Creation King and itself into the Twin Dragon. Twin Dragon on summon pops itself and then is able to add up to 2. Looks like we go Darkblade and Horned Dragon is what we're thinking, at least, or I guess we haven't officially locked that in, but that seems to be the consideration here. Yes, indeed, Darkblade and Horned Dragon. Okay, so we've added these to hand. Field spell is going to trigger because Memento was destroyed. Going to go ahead and summon Goblin. Goblin is summoned off of the effect of the Twin Dragon. Dark Blade is summoned off of the effect of the field spell, because the field spell can summon from hand as well. Dark Blade pops itself to do exactly what? I forget. We're about to find out, though. It might be to add. I think it's either add or special. Okay, so it specials Anguish from deck. We are able to special summon the Horned Dragon from hand because we control nothing but Mementos. And then Anguish pops itself here, I think. Or is Horned Dragon popping Anguish? Either way, Fracture Dance is being searched. Oh, this is Goblin. Goblin is destroying a Memento you control to add to Foolish the 2. So we send Mace and Fracture Dance. Alright, so we do have the ingredients necessary to shuffle back and summon the combined creation. Looks like we're going with Sleepy, Twin Dragon, Mace. Not quite sure, that middle one might be a Dark Blade. Oh no, that's Dark Blade. Whatever the middle one is. Gaddock. Now we have Combined Creation, we have a bunch of back row we can set, and we also have the Fracture Dance that we can set once we get into the end phase here. Alright, so this is quite a bit. Let's see if I can pull it off. I was able to go plus on his turn, and I have vision, and I'm drawing for turn, so I have a lot of cards to work with. This is not as bleak a situation as it might seem. Let's see what comes of it. Our boy is definitely very happy with the position he's in. Let's see if this is deserved. First action is MST. I think I pop Fracture Dance. Yes, indeed. Alright, so the significance here is now I can summon Vararoon, which is a monster effect negate. And then Combined Creation can go ahead and try to summon from grave, which we do in fact summon the Creation King. Alright, so Vararoon hits the field. And I fortunately have that Ultimate Slayer here to take care of the Creation King. So I think we move to main phase, and I believe that's my first action. Or we stay in the draw and I activate Vision. That might be the deal here too. So guys at home watching this, just so you know, the reason why I'm struggling with this so much is because I'm completely forgetting at this moment that while MST is in the graveyard, I can special summon my guys from hand even though my opponent has back row. So I think I'm in a much worse situation than I'm actually in, and that is like completely messing up my game here. This was definitely a winnable game. So I discard Swen. Yeah, see, that was... I mean, I had both spells already, so it's not like the worst thing. But, like, Swen to access another Vision, to access MST out of the grave again, could have been really huge. And again, this is why you play 2 MSTs against this deck. They do still put up the back row. It's definitely worth it to have the MSTs. I just felt like my gut was telling me that like the hand traps and the board breakers were just gonna be a bit better, like the Ultimate Slayer type board breakers, or even like Kaiju's even can be really good, but you still play 2 MST. That was a blunder on my end. He had to take a quick phone call, that's why this is taking a half sec, but I believe he hangs up here really quick, so I'm not necessarily in a hurry. Alright, there we go. Good deal. Alright, so have we moved on to the main phase yet? Okay, so now we go main phase, Ultimate Slayer, target, Creation King. We were clarifying what Vuraruin negates. It's just monsters. He was asking if it can negate any effect. Because I think he's considering chaining the Memento Fusion to dodge target, but I think that I agree that doesn't really accomplish much for him here. It's better to use it as a disruption later. So we send the Garura, and then of course on a new chain we activate the Garura to draw a card. Drawing into Megala. This is an awesome top deck if I remember that I can just special her because I control MST. Especially because I have Chant to trigger the effect. Like, I actually have the tools in my hand here to clear this board. Definitely need to commit to a play here. I'm taking a little bit longer than I should have. Basically, what I'm contemplating is what normal summon is going to be worse into removal or negation. And I decide that it's Megala that's going to be worse into that because it doesn't have an on-summon trigger, whereas Eldum does. Because Eldum, I can still search Crocy, and then because I have Smiting Storm, I can always summon Crocy. Whereas Megala, if that gets negated or removed before I can activate its effect, I don't really have any other push. But we do chain Memento Fusion here, which I believe is completely fine on my end because Crocy is going to be in my hand at the end of the chain. So it's going to consider that a quick play was activated on the chain prior, and her effect will still trigger. So we do go those three back into Creation King. We go ahead and, like I said, search the Crocy, and then we're going to trigger her effect to summon herself. I'm wondering if this would have been the optimal point to chain Vuraruin. I forget exactly what I thought I was holding it for. I forget exactly. Maybe Sleepy? Gaddock is going to try to summon itself. This is fine. Yeah, I think I decided to hold it for Sleepy. I seem to recall doing that. Negating Sleepy. Or at least trying to. Alright, so we add Phonics. And probably MST back from Grave. And then on the new chain, Gaddock is going to trigger to try to revive Sleepy. Or did I not add MST? Okay, so at some point I mess up and add MST when I shouldn't have. But I don't add MST off of Crocy here to keep Vuraruin in the gate. But Gaddock is trying to add Sleepy back. And I think I'm considering whether or not to negate that. I apparently decided to let it go. Alright, now this is where I remember my freaking effects. So I special summon Magala. And now I can activate Chant. I think I declare the effect to add MST back. And this will trigger Magala to summon from deck. So here's the problem. By doing it, this is why I should have just negated Gaddock. Because by doing it this way, now Veraroon is not a negate. I have the back row removal of MST, and I have Magala triggering to summon from deck, but what I don't have is the Veraroon negate. I do go Swen effect to add because I have not yet used Vision's effect to add MST or Chance effect to add a monster. So both of those spells do still have a live effect in my arsenal here. So we do go ahead and add Vision, so that way if I need to get MST back, because I'm thinking that this back row was like super strong, I need to get rid of all of it, which ended up just not being the case. Alright, so we go Swen and Eldam overlay into a Totem Bird. What I should have just done here is used MST to pop something, man. Just keep it in grave. Again, my thought process was keeping it live to trigger Magala, but that's just not that critical here. So I activate Smiting Storm, I believe, so I can try to summon Phonics from hand. And I believe I'm just explaining what Smiting Storm actually does. Okay, so he chains Creation King, targeting, I believe it's Self, Gaddock, and then Crocy and Totem Bird. Okay, this right here is where the Veraroon not being a negate actually comes up. This is it. So I'm thinking here I can negate with Veraroon, but I can't because I don't have MST engrave. Yeah, this is exactly where we're discussing that. So, serious blunder there. But regardless, at least I'm still going to be able to get to Phonics. Truly, I'm just losing the Totem Bird spell trap negation, which at this juncture is not even critical. But for the follow-up, it absolutely obviously is. So I chain MST on the field spell preemptively. I don't know why. I could have done it in response. I guess just in case there was some way to like negate the MST. It didn't need to be in chain though. But if anything, I actually did a little bit worse by doing it in chain because now Smiting Storm was going to have fewer banishes. Gaddock and Memento, Creation King are destroyed, as well as Crocy and Totem Bird. And now I can only banish 3 cards as opposed to 4. Again, not a huge deal, but just when you're trying to play optimally, that's the kind of things you need to think about. But we do banish Grand Breakout, Horse, and Goblin. Now I'm able to summon Phonics. And I think Akihiron is able to summon itself because something was destroyed. Alright, so I activate Vision to add back MST. This is just so I can trigger Phonics to go ahead and get rid of 2 of those back row. And I go for the 2 that are right next to each other. He humorously showed this to a passerby, I believe because it was just 2 copies of Twin Twister, which in this game state were just absolutely dead anyway. Yes, indeed. So here's the pickle I'm in. And, like, listen, this actually looks like I've established control of the game. What I have going on now is all I can do is set MST to try to trigger Magala and Phonics on my opponent's turn. But this means that Veraroon is not a negate currently. So I do go ahead and set the MST, and I think I attempt to pass. I don't have a battle phase because I activated Runics. Sleepy is going to summon itself because Memento was popped this turn, so of course it can just do that. MST is not in the grave because I had to set it. And situations like this right here are like what I'm saying about keeping the 2 MSTs in. Even when you feel like MST is not great in the matchup, you need it for your monster's effects to be online. So you just have to keep the 2 in. That's why all your Radiant Typhoon spells reset themselves if they're popped by MST. That way you just always have the ability to make MST live. We do fuse into the Twin Dragon, which on summon pops itself to add Horse and Darkblade. And then, because it was popped, it summons Darkblade. Darkblade can then discard a card to pop a back row. It does pop the MST. So now at least Varun is a monster negate, but that is literally all I have going for me. Because I don't have any quick plays to activate in hand. I don't have any set. I don't have a way to recover any. So literally all I have here is the monster negate. Or rather, monster effect negate. And it looks like Homeboy top-decked Final Bringer of the End Times, which is just absolutely crazy. So he's obviously just going to pop his own Darkblade in the Varun, so I no longer have the monster negate. In principle, I could activate Phonics to spin back that face down, which I think I don't, because I'm expecting to have Memento Fusion online on his end to make Phonics live once again. But I find out that he does not actually need to activate Fusion. So he is able to play around Phonics here. Alright, so we shuffle everything back, bring out Combined Creation. We're able to go into the battle phase here and just swing for 5k directly into me because of the effect of Akihiron on summon. We go Horse anyway. Horse is going to pop the Akihiron. 2 foolish up to level 5 levels worth of Memento monsters. There's Sleepy and Gaddock. Gaddock is going to summon itself. I forget exactly how Combined Creation was added back to hand there. But I'm sure it's legit. He plays this deck a lot. I just forget what effect allowed that to happen. I keep checking my graveyard, hoping the Graveyard Fairy is going to put some good cards in there. And I believe it's just Jover here because he's able to swing for the 5k. And then he has Sleepy in hand, which can activate in any phase because this deck is broken. At least for Genesys format. In Advanced, I think it's well designed. In Genesys format, I think it's pretty overtuned. But anyway, Sleepy's able to just activate any phase, summon itself, perform the fusion summon, and then make the other guy that's 3k. Swing with the 3k, there's no need. I go ahead and scoop. Yeah, definitely siding out the MST was my downfall there. Had I decided just a bit differently and remembered my own summoning conditions better, that game 2 was certainly winnable. But regardless, it was a really fun game. I said game 2 again, meant game 3. The game 3 was certainly winnable. But regardless, it was a blast to play. Juan's always really fun to play against. I always have a great time playing, in general, against Memento. The Radiant Typhoon matchup with it seems to be really fun. Genesys in general is looking pretty good, other than some, kind of out-of-line combo decks in the format. But hey, that's why I'm on the nibs and the jolls, right? Alright, I appreciate you guys checking this out. I will see you in the next one. Peace.